Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are taking an immediate and very concentrated look at the future of robotics, and specifically the really aggressive predictions being made right now by the most influential builders in the space.
Right. We're not talking about some slow, gradual evolution here.
No, not at all. We are diving into source material that describes a sudden, almost cataclysmic economic and technological shift driven entirely by humanoid machines.
And our mission today is really to analyze these forecasts. I mean, we have to look at them impartially.
Of course.
Because these are just, science fiction ideas. These are the deeply bullish strategic intentions of leaders like Brett Adcock, a figure, and of course, Elon Musk.
And the sources paint a picture of them being completely united on this.
Absolutely. The sources suggest a shared, almost non-negotiable belief system. And it all centers around three colossal claims that we really need to dissect.
Okay, what are they?
1, the manufacturing scale will reach billions of units. 2, the tech that enables this, robot AGI, is coming, and it's coming soon. And 3, the result of all this will be the single largest consumer market in human history.
That is quite a mission statement. I mean, the takeaway from the sources isn't just that they might build robots, it's that the timeline and the convergence of these three things are being treated almost like a mathematical certainty by them.
Precisely.
So let's start with the scale, because that number, billions, is where this whole thing just immediately shatters any historical precedent.
It really is. And when we talk about that kind of scale, we have to recognize the implication. The sources state it so plainly. Billions of humanoids will be manufactured in the near future.
Billions.
Billions. And to put that number in perspective for you, just think about the global car market.
Okay.
Well, we think of that as huge, right? Well, about 90 million cars are produced every year.
90 million.
And even smartphones, the very definition of a ubiquitous device, that took over a decade to reach global saturation in the billions.
And these proponents are suggesting a similar scale for complex physical machines is going to happen almost overnight.
That's the claim. And the sources treat this immense number not as some lofty goal, but as a critical requirement.
Right, because if you're going to deploy that much physical hardware, it has to be because the demand is absolute.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the money side of it. The sources link this manufacturing explosion directly to the prediction that it will create the largest consumer market in history.
And what's so fascinating is to stop and analyze what kind of market could possibly eclipse everything else.
You mean bigger than housing, bigger than healthcare or energy?
Combined. If a robot deployment creates the largest consumer market ever, it means the utility, the value generated by each robot, must be incredibly high.
And the market for them must be nearly universal.
Yes.
But that raises a really critical point we have to inject here. What does consumer market actually mean in this context? Are they talking about individuals like you and me buying a robot for our homes?
That's part of it. The sources suggest a duality, but they lean really heavily on utility and labor displacement. That's what fuels the massive market valuation.
So less of a consumer gadget, more of a tool.
Exactly. The robot itself is the product, but its value is the infinite range of services it can provide. That makes it a critical asset for businesses, logistics, technical tasks, and for households, things like domestic labor or elder care.
So the key insight from these proponents is that the humanoids will be so versatile and so cheap compared to human wages
that buying or leasing one becomes an absolute necessity for anyone who needs physical work done.
Okay, so the massive scale is justified not by luxury, but by replacing a cost-center human labor with a more efficient capital expenditure, multiplied by billions.
They got it.
But if we're manufacturing machines that complex at that kind of scale for every possible environment, I mean, the technological barriers must be enormous.
Oh, absolutely. And this brings us right to the second major point, the technological engine that the sources say will power all of this.
Yeah.
Robot artificial general intelligence.
Robot AGI.
The proponents state very explicitly that this AGI is coming and that it is the non-negotiable condition for everything we just talked about.
Without AGI, the whole economic house of cards just collapses.
Completely.
If you follow robotics, you know that today's industrial robots are amazing at what they do, but they're rigid. They need a perfectly controlled environment.
Right. If a part is out of place by an inch, The whole assembly line can grind to a halt.
So how do the sources define robot AGI in contrast to that? How does that difference justify this leap from a niche industrial tool to, a global utility?
The difference is defined by autonomy, learning, and what you might call generalized physical reasoning, or just common sense.
Common sense for a machine.
Right. Traditional robotics uses specialized AI. It's brilliant at one task within very known parameters. Robot AGI, as these sources envision it, allows the machine to handle novelty.
So if it encounters something it hasn't seen before.
Exactly. If it finds a misplaced tool, or you ask it to sort a box of random items, or even navigate an apartment it's never been in, it can infer a solution, plan, and execute.
Yeah.
It uses generalized human-like reasoning.
It's a difference between a calculator, which is perfect at one thing, and an actual student who can learn a whole new subject.
That's a perfect analogy. And that adaptability is the absolute prerequisite for getting to billions of units.
Because you can't custom program a robot for every single home and factory in the world.
The cost would be prohibitive.
Yeah.
AGI allows that single hardware platform, the humanoid, to be instantly valuable in any setting. It blows the addressable market wide open to include, well, basically all forms of physical labor.
Okay, but this is where a little bit of, practical skepticism has to come in.
Sure.
The sources are extremely bullish on AGI arriving imminently, but given the historical challenges of getting AI out of the lab and into the real world reliably, did they acknowledge how hard this is? Or are they just sort of asserting it's around the corner?
They do acknowledge the difficulty, but they frame the solution as a problem of scale and data.
Which is a common argument in AI right now. More data, better model.
Right. They believe the data collection engine needed to train these physical AGI models is either already active or is being deployed as we speak. And crucially, they see the training process as being accelerated by the very act of building and deploying the early prototypes.
Wait, so the robot is both the product and the training tool at the same time?
That's the idea. The scale of deployment isn't just about sales. It's about collecting the vast amounts of real-world data needed to rapidly mature the AGI. That, in turn, makes the next batch of robots more valuable, which fuels even greater scale.
It's a positive feedback loop.
It is. Without AGI, you don't get to billions of units. But the path to AGI, according to the sources, is actually paved by aiming for that billion-unit scale from the start.
Okay, that connects all the pieces. The economic engine and the technology are feeding each other. But now we have to face the most important part of this.
The human element.
The human question. After laying out this vision, billions of AGI-driven humanoids creating the largest market ever, the source material pivots and asks, so what does this mean for humans? And this is where this knowledge becomes immediately relevant to you, the listener.
This is definitely the most profound part of the analysis. If the sources are right, and a non-human entity is about to start generating the largest value stream in history, we have to confront what that means for human labor and human purpose.
For certain kinds of work, it's a zero-sum game.
It has to be.
So what are the first dominoes to fall? What are the sectors of human employment that get completely captured by these humanoids to justify that kind of market valuation?
Well, the sources point heavily toward jobs that are repetitive, physically demanding, or just plain dirty.
Logistics manufacturing?
Think global logistics trucking, warehousing, last-mile delivery. Think industrial and agricultural labor for sure. But critically, they also focus on deeply intimate and economically stressed fields, domestic labor, specialized repair, and maybe most poignantly, elder care.
And if a robot is capable of generalized physical labor, it fundamentally removes the need for humans in those roles.
The economic calculation is just brutal. Why pay a human a rising hourly wage with benefits and time off when you can lease a robotic unit for a fixed, lower cost that works 247 without a complaint?
That level of displacement, it goes way beyond just unemployment numbers. It suggests the very nature of what a skill is changes dramatically.
It does.
If all physical tasks can be handled by AGI, what skills are left for humans to monetize?
The sources, by focusing on what the robots do, imply a shift towards what they don't do. Uniquely human things.
Like what? Creativity.
Creativity, complex relationship management, high-level research, and maybe most abstractly, creating the content that the robots interact with or process.
So the economic model shifts from paying for physical effort to paying for intellectual or social innovation.
That's the implication.
And this shift isn't something that happens over 50 years. The aggressive timeline from Adcock and Musk suggests this restructuring starts almost immediately once AGI is proven. For you, the listener, this means a career path that seems stable today could become obsolete much faster than anyone previously thought.
The sources are essentially demanding that we rapidly rethink the value of human activity. If you can automate nearly all physical and routine cognitive work, the human role has to shift from labor provider to something else.
Capital owner, maybe? Or innovation engine?
Perhaps. But the synthesis of their three claims, billions of units, AGI, biggest market, it logically requires mass human displacement. That's the outcome.
It's a chilling thought that the largest economic market in history could be built entirely on the back of non-human labor.
It changes the foundational contract of modern economics. And while the sources are optimistic, they talk about an era of abundance and leisure, the utopian view.
The transition would be incredibly turbulent.
Severe turbulence. We're looking at a projected market so large that it has to, by definition, subsume the value of what humans currently contribute economically. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a takeover of physical work.
So this deep dive really shows that the convergence is the key. They're not just selling a piece of hardware. They're selling a new economic operating system.
A new OS built on the chassis of an AGI-driven humanoid, yes.
So, to bring this all back into focus for a moment, we've looked at the unanimous, incredibly bullish belief from figures Brett Adcock and Elon Musk. They see robot AGI as imminent. And they believe this will create the largest consumer market in history, measured in billions of deployed units.
It's an incredibly potent and aggressive projection. And it leaves us with one final thought to mull over, building on the sheer magnitude of all this.
Go on.
If the market around building, deploying, and servicing these humanoids truly becomes the largest consumer market in history, as the sources insist, then this new economy must fundamentally replace an existing system. So consider this. What aspect of human economic interaction, the way we earn a living, the way we care for each other, or the way we build our world, what part of that must absolutely disappear or be redefined for that colossal new value stream to take its place? That is the necessary disruption hidden inside their numbers.